The Lewis gun, immediately recognizable by the pain in the eyes of the soldier who has to carry it. With its massive cooling shroud and pan magazine, it's one of the most iconic weapons of World War I. This weapon is primarily found in British World War I movies, but it has a broad use around the world and in a galaxy far, far away. So let's take a look at this interesting weapon and some of the movies it's been featured in.
Hello, stop your little games. Don't you think your ways you ought to mend?
The Lewis gun entered service for the British Army in the second year of World War I in 1915, having already been in use by the Belgian Army a year prior. Despite its British association, it was an American-designed gun that would be adopted and mass-produced in the United Kingdom, with some produced in America, and it would be used by virtually all Allied powers during the war. The inventor of the Lewis gun was U.S. Army Colonel Isaac Newton Lewis, an American who established the Arms Automatique Lewis Company in Belgium. As the Belgian Army was one of the first armies to adopt the weapon, it was sometimes called the Belgian rattlesnake by German soldiers in World War I. In 1914, Lewis and his factory moved to England, securing it from any possible German seizure. Despite both looking like a steampunk invention and 70s science fiction blaster, the Lewis gun had a design that was both reliable and accurate. It could also fire an impressive, for World War I, 500 to 600 rounds a minute, though the barrel could not be quickly changed once overheated. The Lewis's unique pan magazine held either 47 or 97 rounds. These magazines were very cumbersome by today's standards and took a lifetime to reload. The British version of the Lewis would fire the .303 round, and the American the .30-06. The other unique feature of the Lewis gun is easily the massive aluminum cooling shroud. Though the shroud was effective, it's interesting that none of the aircraft variants have such a shroud, relying on their speed to cool the weapon. Shrouds would be occasionally ditched by non-aircraft units, with users reporting their function little changed. It has been suggested the inventor Colonel Lewis designed the shroud in part to make the weapon more distinct from designer Samuel McLean's initial work on the gun. The Lewis's external and internal designs are undoubtedly odd, including for example the use of a recoil spring and a semicircular housing just in front of the trigger, more akin to what you'd find in a clock versus a firearm. But despite this gun was considerably reliable. This was particularly important for pilots in the air, needing a weapon they did not have to service while flying.
Hey, look! What a pretty red plane!
What? Where?
The Lewis was popular with several air forces and is found in a number of World War I aircraft films, primarily in its aircraft variation without the cooling shroud. It's also not found mounted behind a pilot's propellers, as it was not suited to being synchronized to fire through them. In 1918, the Lewis aircraft variant was given a recoil enhancer, increasing the rate of fire to an impressive 800 rounds per minute. One interesting scene in The Red Baron shows the famous pilot even taking one as a trophy.
Has anybody got the spanner?
The weapon was not only used by Germans who captured it, but the Japanese also copied the design of the Lewis for use in their aircraft, creating the Type 92, which was used in World War II. You can briefly catch one in Pearl Harbor, mounted on a Nakajima B-5N torpedo bomber, which are in fact altered Texan Navy training aircraft. In a further validation of the Lewis's design, the World War II German FG-42 would use the Lewis gun's gas assembly and bolt design in the advanced automatic rifle used by German paratroopers. The FG-42 is a rare sight on film.
Oberst Kurt Steiner, commanding the 12th Parachute Detachment.
For those using the Lewis on the ground, it was monstrously heavy. Scenes like this one from the movie Sucker Punch required the Lewis to be suspended from wire. The Lewis weighed over 28 pounds, though it should be noted this is still considered an advanced design, when typical machine guns of the era, such as the Vickers Mk1 machine gun, weighed double that. The Lewis was one of the few options for a World War I soldier wanting portable automatic fire. By 1915, the Lewis began replacing Vickers machine guns in infantry battalions, with Vickers machine guns being given to the new Specialist Machine Gun Corps. The U.S. Marine Corps and U.S. Navy would also adopt the Lewis gun in the common American .30-06 caliber cartridge, and it would see some limited use in the interwar years as well, as shown here being used by the National Guard during the transfer of the famous gangster John Dillinger. Within the British military, those assigned to Lewis guns were specialist trained, and these firearms are considered both expensive and essential within infantry battalions. Accounts of the weapon's training include being able to strip and rebuild the weapon in its 104 parts correctly, blindfolded, and within 60 seconds. The gun was operated by a team of 7, all who carried heavy pans of ammunition in support of the gunner. All 7 were trained in the gun's use, so if the principal gunner was killed, they could all take over the position.
If you can get past the mud, the country's quite beautiful, no?
Though the U.S. Marines and Navy were using the Lewis, the weapon was never adopted by the American Army, which by 1917 adopted the Browning automatic rifle, a significantly smaller automatic weapon compared to the Lewis, which itself would become a cumbersome beast by World War II. However, the BAR would not reach the front by the end of World War I.
So what do we do now, Sarge?
We wait.
Overall, the Lewis gun was a successful design for World War I. It had an effective firing range of 800 meters and a maximum firing range of 3,200 meters, which was useful in both trench warfare and in the air. The Lewis was used by both French and British aircraft. Notably, several Zeppelins flying at high altitude were shot down by Lewis guns when using phosphorus bullets. In World War II, the Lewis was replaced by the highly popular Bren gun for infantry use. In the air and on some vehicles, the Vickers K with its high rate of fire further replaced it. Seen here mounted to a British desert jeep.
They're ours!
Well, I'm glad about that.
The Lewis gun did get a second life in World War II, due to the rapid need to rearm Britain. It would see scattered use, but it was primarily used as an anti-aircraft gun, often dual-mounted. Alright, I'm Johnny. Thanks for watching this quick brief on the Lewis gun. As always, feel free to share any information on the subject in the comments section, and I hope to see you in the next video.